Okay, good morning. I'm going to read, I think it's the last chapter of this book, The Wheels of Life. And then I have another book in mind. Fostering Healthy Chakras in Our Children. I'm going to clean my glasses. It's really cold here where I am. Hope for a better future depends on raising children without the traumas and abuses that plague so many people struggling through recovery today. Yeah, it'd be nice if the family court system would stay the F out of people's lives. Court system in general causes a lot of the trauma. Courts are making money off of our traumas and then creating trauma to make more money. These abuses often occurred at the hands of well-meaning but ignorant parents, and the courts take advantage of that. Many of whom were simply responding from their own unhealed wounds they had received from the previous generation, and the courts take advantage of that, which may have been passed on through family and culture for many generations before that. As adults today undergo the difficult journey of healing these wounds, they understandably want to avoid at all costs inflicting similar difficulties upon their own children. Today's children need intelligent guidance that supports their growth and integration in body, mind, and spirit, and the courts do not support that at all. As a matter of fact, they're a deterrent from it. Finding spiritual models that can be applied to children, models that address their development in a way that honors the different stages of a child's life, can be difficult. Schools educate the mind but suppress the body's natural urge to run and play. Daniel Goleman, in his best-selling book Emotional Intelligence, illustrates the need to educate and mature the emotions before the intellect. Some children grew up completely eschewing religion because they were made to sit on hard pews or read books that were intellectually beyond their understanding, and thus have no interest in spiritual matters when they are older. Others grow up to completely ignore the body and incur health problems as a result. Still others steer away from colleges and other intellectually demanding tasks because they grew up to believe they didn't have the necessary intelligence, often because they were given tasks as children that were beyond the abilities of their age. The chakra system, based on the 7 wheel-like energy centers of the body, provide a profound mirror to the stages of childhood development. This system shows how the chakras develop sequentially from bottom to top as a child matures from birth to adulthood. In my personal growth seminars based on teaching this model as a way to heal adults from their past traumas and current difficulties, I am constantly asked by parents in the audience, I have a child who is at this stage right now. What do I do to support this development? The question goes beyond simply avoiding abuse, but moves into the creation of optimal human beings. This occurs through supporting children in all dimensions of their experience, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Well, the court systems abused my son and abused my daughter, and I'm sure it's happened to countless other families. Psychological abuse. And my son was physically abused in group homes that he was demanded to go to by the court system, and he had cerebral palsy. And I'm supposed to not be upset about it and just pretend like it didn't happen. Well, I can promise you right now that's not going to happen. What follows below is a brief introduction to the chakras and their childhood developmental stages. And saying I was an easy target because I came from a dysfunctional family. right? So I had a family who couldn't support me emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially. So I was an easy target. Although my son's father came from a wealthy family and they did nothing except for collect money on his death, playing into the hands of the system, all for greed. What follows below is a brief introduction to the chakras and their childhood. So I'm using my throat chakra right now and my solar plexus. I can feel both of those activated. And my heart chakra too. What follows below is a brief introduction to the chakras and their childhood development stages, with simple advice for parents on how to support the unfolding of these important areas in a child's life. Chakra 1, womb to 1 year. Promote embodiment. The most important thing you can do at this stage is to help your child come fully into her body. Frequent touch, holding, caring, nurturing, and attendance to physical needs cannot be stressed enough. Well, as soon as my daughter's father found out that she was his, he got a lawyer and started to try to get full custody of her, claiming my son, who was disabled, was a danger to her. So she was immediately, her and I immediately were under target. He asked his lawyer to have her removed from my custody as soon as she could stop breastfeeding. He's dead now, by the way. The most important thing you can do at this stage is to help your child come fully into her body. Frequent touch, holding, caring, nurturing, and attendance to physical needs cannot be stressed enough. Your touch affirms your child's physicality. Your holding teaches her to hold herself. Playing with your child helps her develop motor coordination. Playing with her feet and hands, supplying toys she can grasp, playing when she's in the bath, all help stimulate motor development. Setting up an appropriate environment that is safe and comfortable with age-appropriate toys helps the child relate to the outer world in a positive way. When my son was born and he was born with cerebral palsy, I would talk to him. I would tell him everything I was doing, and I really think that helped his development. I told him everything. Establish trust by allowing attachment and bonding. The child's only source of safety is through attachment to the primary caregiver. It is important for the mother or father, if he is primary parent, to be there as consistently as possible during the first year as a ground for the child. And the courts encouraged Opal and I to be separated. And as a matter of fact, they did everything they could to make sure that happened. Now I have a child who's 12 years old who's been diagnosed with PTSD. Thanks, court systems. Good looking out. This means picking her up when she cries, frequently holding and cuddling her, talking to her, protecting her from loud noises, hunger, cold, or discomfort, and feeding her when she's hungry, rather than by a schedule. Well, you have to have housing to do that. There's another issue that we are, this is all wonderful stuff and it works. But let's get down to the basics, the root chakra. You have to be housed to do these sorts of things. You don't have to, but it's a lot easier to have a consistent, stable home environment. Not always ripped out of your homes. Some parents have difficulty allowing this attachment to form because the child's natural neediness feels too demanding. Allowing this attachment to occur helps the child become more independent later. Consistency of presence during infancy helps to reconcile the dilemma of trust versus mistrust in a way that brings hope and confidence. Knowing that the parent is always there allows the child to relax into the development that needs to occur rather than rise to tension and hypervigilance. Now, what about the parents who have to work full-time just to keep a roof over their head and they have to drop their babies off at childcare? I mean, this is all great and it works, but it's not realistic if or struggling to survive. Appropriate daycare. If the mother needs to work during the first year and can't be there with her child, she leaves her child at a disadvantage. Unfortunately, financial circumstances often make this the only option. The best parents can do is provide a healthiest child care possible, acting as advocates to make sure the child gets the care she needs, making sure the child is touched frequently and appropriately, fed on demand, and cared for by competent adults in an age-appropriate environment are few things the parents can look into when finding daycare. Spending time at the daycare with her child until she gets used to it is also helpful. Family daycares and in-home babysitting are more likely to offer continuity and consistency. In addition, the mother needs to understand that the child may need extra nurturing, touch, and mother-child bonding in the evening at home. This is especially demanding on single and or working mothers who are often exhausted by the end of the day. Yet, time taken for nurturing during the first year pays off in the long run with a calmer and healthier child who makes less demands later. A feeling of safety comes from a safe environment. Peace in the home, protection from loud noises, sharp objects, falling, cold, and violence of adults or siblings is essential. Remember, environment is self to the infant. What they are embedded in is the first influence on who they are. When a child is in an unfamiliar environment, such as a store, a park, doctor's office, or a friend's house, the parent is an island of safety for the child. Understand that your child will be more insecure and need to come to you again and again for reassurance. Healthy nourishment. Feeding schedules, though convenient for the parent, do not allow the child to establish their own rhythms, nor do they teach her that the world will respond to her needs. Breastfeeding has been proven to be healthier emotionally and physically, as breast milk contains important antibodies, and experience of breastfeeding it promotes mother-child bonding through physical closeness. But studies have shown that the emotional state of the mother while feeding is actually more important than whether it comes from a breast or a bottle. A bottle given lovingly is better than a breast given resentfully. Healthy nutrition on the part of the mother, refraining from harmful substances that flow into the milk, such as drugs and alcohol, and healthy nutrition when the child begins eating food, are so essential to building a healthy body. If you successfully handle this stage, you will give your child a healthy foundation from which to meet the many challenges that life will bring. She will have a sense of her own body and aliveness, and a sense of hope and optimism that the world can and will meet her needs. Chakra 2, 6 to 18 months. Allow separation and attachment. Your child will now be in the hatching stage, beginning to separate from his parent as his body development allows him more and more movement. Because this is scary to him, he will go back and forth, moving away and coming back to see if everything is okay. In some ways, he will seem even more attached, and this is natural. It is important to support both these movements, to encourage the separation by offering safe opportunities to explore and by being warm and loving when reassurance is needed. Provide safe environment. Your child is exploring the world through his senses. This is his main mode of experience right now. It is important to provide colors and sounds, interesting toys, touch and pleasure through play, and a safe environment to explore. Your voice and attention are a major part of the sensate experience. Support exploration through movement. Your child wants to move about right now. This is not the time for a playpen, and if you must use one, use it only for short periods of time. Instead, find places where he can crawl and walk about safely, where he can run in the park, roll around in the yard, and learn to use his body in its newfound joy of movement. Reflect emotions. Your child is learning his emotional language. If you want to teach emotional literacy, it's important to mirror his feelings. Be responsive to his cries and expressions of rage, fear, need, or confusion. Don't negate or punish him for his emotions. He can't help what he feels. Reflect words to show him you understand. How sad you look right now. Are you scared? Do you want mommy to hold your hand? Though he can't speak very well yet, he is beginning to understand words by listening. He will understand that his feelings have a name, and that even without language, he can communicate to someone what he needs or wants. Be aware of your own emotional needs and states, as well as the emotional field in the household. Children pick up our rage and fear, anxiety and joy. Take care of your needs as much as possible so your unresolved emotions are not projected onto your innocent child. Create a positive environment. Chakra 3, 18 months to 3 years. Support autonomy and willfulness. As your child begins to celebrate her independence. Try to support her in her willingness, hard as it might be, by offering choices whenever possible. Instead of asking, do you want Cheerios? No. Do you want cornflakes? No. Do you want oatmeal? No. And then getting exasperated, you can say, do you want Cheerios, cornflakes, or oatmeal? Or you can pick out 2 suitable outfits to wear and give her a chance to choose. Give your child opportunities to feel willful in ways that are safe and appropriate. I did those for both my children, and they were still taken away from me. Encourage self-esteem. As I am a incredibly loving, nurturing, competent mother, and my children were taken from me. Encourage self-esteem. As the ego identity is forming at this stage, be sure to take delight in your child's accomplishments and make her feel appreciated. Support her independence without rejecting her. If you give your child tasks that she can successfully accomplish, she will develop confidence. Age-appropriate puzzles and toys, small jobs around the house like putting toys in a box or picking up stuffed animals, can help to foster a basic sense of confidence. If she insists on doing a task that is beyond her abilities, such as tying her shoes, help her accomplish it. By all means, refrain from getting critical or overly frustrated by her awkward attempts to do simple things. Have patience. It will pay off in the long run. Successful toilet training. Your child will indicate to you when she's ready for toilet training. She will show an interest in the toilet and adult bathroom activities. She may tell you when she's wet or resist diapers when you're putting them on. She will stay dry for longer periods of time. Sphincter muscles are not capable of holding on until the child is 18 months to 2 years. It may not be until age 3 that she can go all night without a diaper. If you wait till the time is right, she will feel a sense of pride over this new adult behavior rather than engage in fruitless battles of will. Reward for successful behavior goes further than punishments for mistakes. I think the courts need to hear that line. Rewards for successful behavior go further than punishments for mistakes, which only create shame, almost as if they're doing it on purpose. Find treats that can be given as reinforcers, as well as hugging, clapping, and verbal appreciation. Appropriate discipline. In supporting your child's autonomy and will, you obviously cannot relinquish all control. There needs to be appropriate limits, firmly given. Your child cannot understand sophisticated reasoning, but simple cause and effect statements like, Doggy bites, don't touch, can be understood. Severe punishment teaches aggressive behavior and fosters shame. Withdrawal of love puts the third and fourth chakras at odds and stimulates the child's insecurity and need for approval. So when my son was first put into group homes, I was not allowed to see him for the first 2 weeks he was in the group home. Do you know how traumatizing that was for him and myself? It just made the situation so much worse. It exasperated it. Of course, he's dead now. And people collected a bunch of money when he died, including the court system and his father and his paternal grandmother. Instead, try to divert your child's attention to something more appropriate. If you take the remote channel changer out of her mouth, don't yell at her when she cries. Give her something else to hold. Remove her from dangerous situations. Limits set firmly and consistently for short periods of time, such as time out in one's room alone or for a few minutes, can be effective, more effective than anger or withdrawal. Children are highly sensitive to parents' approval at this stage. When you must, disapprove the behavior and not the child. Disapprove the behavior and not the child. Chakra 4, pay attention to when modeling relationships. Children at this age are learning about social roles by identification and imitation. Parental identification allows children to feel that their parents are with them even when not physically present. This means your child will internalize your behavior as part of himself. If you are angry and aggressive, you will teach him to be angry and aggressive in his relationship with himself and others. As he grows into an awareness of relationships around him, model balanced, loving relationships for him to observe and be a part of. Model empathy and moral behavior. Identification with you as a parent will also give him a basis for moral behavior. Explain to him why you do certain things and refrain from others. We're going to take cookies to Miss Smith because she's all alone and it will make her feel better. See how the baby likes it when you smile at her? We don't eat candy before dinner because it doesn't leave room for the food that makes our bones and muscles. Also be aware that you are modeling gender behavior. Be careful not to support overly sexist or narrow interpretations of how men or women behave. Treat your boy and girl children with equal affection, responsibility, and respect. Allow your child to see a wide range of acceptable behavior. Let your daughter be aware of models of strong women. Let your son know he won't lose his masculinity by showing his softer feelings. Explain relationships. Your child is trying to understand how everything he discovers goes with everything else. The more you can explain such relationships, the more secure he will feel. We put the puzzle away so we don't lose the pieces. We put gas in the car so it will take us where we want to go, just like food gives us energy to run around. Mommy has to work so she can get money to buy food. Routine can be very important. If routine is interrupted, explain why. We can't go to the park today because Aunt Mary is coming to visit. Support peer relationships. Your child can now relate to children his own age with supervision. If he's not in school yet, find ways to get him together with other children. If he is in school, ask him about the other kids he interacts with. Find opportunities to foster friendships outside of school. Chakra 5, 7 to 12 years. Support communication. Your child has a solid command of language now. Help her use it. Have long discussions with her about the nature of the world. Encourage her to ask questions and take time to answer them. Ask her questions about herself, her feelings, and her friends that she can talk about. Be an attentive listener. Cognitive learning is enormous at this period. School is a major arena for learning and development of confidence. Show interest in your child's studies. Help her with her homework. Ask questions. Supply added information. Share what you know. Get involved in school projects. Model good study habits. Give rewards for good performance. Stimulate creativity. Success is the greatest motivator for developing competence. Supply your child with creative opportunities for industrious expression. Art supplies, musical instruments, crafts, dance classes. Model the creative thinking process by searching for new ways to do things, even if it's something as mundane as setting the table. Teach her to use tools, stimulate creativity with books and movies, concerts and plays. When your child presents you with something she has created, be sure to appreciate it, even if it only looks like a silly blob. This teaches her that her creations have value and support her creative identity. Show the drawing to others, put it on the refrigerator, invite grandma to the school play. Expose to larger world. Take your child to new places, a trip to the museum, street fairs, the zoo, a traveling vacation, a camp out in the mountains. Allow exposure to different ways of life and to encourage her horizons to expand. Chakra 6, Adolescence. Support identity formation. Your adolescent is now searching for his own identity. This is not a time to be controlling over details that are not of direct harm, such as hair, clothing, harmless activities such as listening to music. Respect his expression of individuality. Encourage his own thinking by asking questions rather than giving answers. Instead of telling him what you did when you were his age, ask him what he might tell his son if he were a father. The roles he tries on will change many times before he settles into his adult identity. Don't worry about the ones you don't like. To strongly oppose it strengthens the likelihood that it will last longer. Support independence. Allow your child to have more of his own life. Encourage ways he can earn his own money. Take responsibility for more aspects of his life, such as buying clothes, having his own transportation, creating activities. Let him make some of his own mistakes. If he feels you believe in him, he will more likely behave responsibly. Set clear boundaries. Adolescents, nevertheless, must have a clear and consistent sense of limits. As they are now old enough for sophisticated reasoning, it is important to include them in the thinking beyond those limits, even to the point of letting them suggest alternative ways to address these limits. My son, for example, got an F in English his first quarter of high school. He immediately lost television and computer privileges until the next grading period. 6 weeks later, with 4 weeks left before the next report card was issued, he asked if he could resume some privileges by getting a note from his English teacher and said how much better he was doing. He took the initiative and brought home a note saying he was now doing A-quality work. I rewarded him for the improvement by reinstating some privileges on a probationary basis. Chakra 7, Early Adulthood and Beyond. Chakra 7 modeling actually occurs throughout childhood. By the time your son or daughter is truly at the 7th chakra stage, they are on their own and your influence will be minimal. But here's some general principles to practice beforehand. Stimulate questioning. Ask, don't tell. If your home is a safe place to question and discuss values, your child will learn to think for him or herself. If she is taught to think through her own problems with support, learning that there may be many answers to a single situation, she will be more open-minded. Involving her in intellectual discussions and asking for her opinion makes her feel that her thought processes are worthwhile. Offer spiritual variety. Spirituality should not be forced on your child. It is better instituted by modeling conscious behavior and sharing what you can as there is interest. In addition to exposing your child to whatever religion or you practice, you can make their spirituality even more solid by giving them some exposure to other religions as well. Explain why your family has chosen the religion you practice. Allow your child to research other cultures and styles of worship. If your religion is best for her, she will come back to it on her own, more solid in her commitment because she's been offered choice. If she chooses another that she finds more fulfilling, it will be an informed choice rather than an active rebellion. Provide opportunities for education. Learning is the way we feed our seventh chakra and keep our operating system up to date. Support learning in whatever way you can, whether it's attending local community college, weekend workshops, a trek to the Himalayas, or a self imposed course of study. Teach your child to find the lessons and experience. Ask what she's learning from different activities. Let it go. When it's time for your young adult to leave home, support and celebrate their independence. It doesn't help to hang on to her, nor does it help to push her out the door. As the parent withdraws control and attachment, the young person will naturally gravitate out into her own world. Conclusion. As children grow up through the chakras, they don't immediately outgrow the needs of the previous chakra. Children need physical affection all through life. Yeah, they wouldn't let me see my child, Bodhi, at all. Wouldn't let me come into the group homes, said it was bad for me to hug or touch him or give him any love at all because he needed to be independent. And I will repeat, he is dead now. Children need physical affection all through life, not just in the first and second chakras. They need continual approval for their self-esteem. They need to be talked to, engaged with, included in family councils and activities. Yeah, we weren't allowed to come and see him in the hospital or the group homes. There were court orders to keep the family away from him. And I repeat, he is dead now. There is never justification for parents to inflict upon their children sexual activity, physical pain, or shaming criticism, which the group homes did to my son. He is dead now. If this occurs, find help for yourself immediately through local parent support groups or your own therapy. Break the cycle. Don't pass on the abuse. Can someone let the courts know that, please? Children need love and attention, time and approval. They need to be encouraged, not discouraged. Can someone tell the courts that, please? They need to be part of adult society. They need their individuality to reform that society in ways that are in better harmony with the body, soul, and spirit. Children are the sacred beings of the future. They are the hope of humankind. Can someone let the courts know that, please?